Hey, this is Zach Human, and you're watching QUEST.TV.
I'm Kevin Schuker, and this is QUEST.TV. We're here at the Raw Spirit Festival in sunny Sedona, Arizona, and we're nestled here amongst the beautiful red rocks at the Radisson El Diablo Resort. And this is a Saturday, and there's a lot of great stuff going on. Over here, over my left shoulder, you can see we have the Raw Spirit main stage. We have a musical performer at the moment. And there's a lot of workshops going on here, and music going on throughout the day and through the evening. And everybody seems to be having a great time. And if we pan over here to the right, we can see that we have a dome over here, and this is another workshop area where we can get a little sneak peek inside. You can see everybody sitting there waiting for the next workshop leader to appear. So we're having a great time here. There's lots of people, 3,000 people, great food, great atmosphere, great energy. And I'm Kevin Schuker, and I'm having a great time here at the Raw Spirit Festival.
Talking today about her liver and gallbladder cleansing system. I want you to give a warm round of applause and welcome to the stage, Annie Jubb. Can you hear me? Good. My name is Annie, and I'm going to talk today about my program, which is Life Food Nutrition. And Life Food Nutrition I've been teaching for about 18 years. And it really is about looking at the life force inside of foods, right? So anything that has a measurable life force to it. So that even includes certain vitamin and supplements like this as well. There's a cool camera now that comes out of France, and it's called a Kirlian camera. And it takes the photograph of any living thing. So take a picture of you. You might have seen these in some of the health fairs. Or this is a star fruit. And you can see that there's like a radiant tendril of electricity that comes out of this food. Well, this is pretty much why we're here today, too. It's because we've all tuned into the fact that raw living foods, especially organic and biodynamic foods, actually have a measurable, radiant auric spectra around them. And it's kind of cool after hundreds of years of talking about aura pictures, because it really demonstrates so much of what I'm going to be talking about today, about this measurable energy, right? So when we look inside of the body, if we look at blood, right, or we look anywhere inside of the body, the condition of health is really to do with how much space we have, right? And so one of the things that I've been working with in my life for the last 18 years is really how to clear away anything that's not you out of the body. And most particularly today, I'm going to be talking about my liver and gallbladder detoxification program. And we start at the liver and gallbladder always because it's really the top of the mountain for tissue cleansing. And I don't care if you've got some kind of toe fungus, you've got something going on, brain cancer, anything else, any place else in the body. The place that we start is really with the liver and the gallbladder. So the liver is the most important organ of the body. It's the hottest organ of the body. It's at about 106 degrees Fahrenheit inside of the center of it. So it's hotter than any other part of the body. And it's the most regenerative organ in the entire body as well. If you surgically remove half of the liver, within a few weeks you'll have grown back the rest of that liver. So the body's protecting that. There's over 100 different purposes for the liver exactly. And I've got a whole list of them in my office. Actually, sometimes I just sit there and gaze at them. But the number one thing that the liver does is it modulates energy, right? And it helps us to deal with sugars and fats, and to produce energy out of it. So if you're sluggish in energy, you wake up in the morning, you don't have all of the energy that you need, there's some compromise to the liver and gallbladder. The gallbladder is the liver sits right here, right? And the gallbladder sits just behind it. And the gallbladder today is more like the trash can for the liver, right? Always before it had a different purpose in history, where it was really just about dealing with bile salts and breaking down sugars and starches and fats for the liver and sort of assisting the liver. But because we've changed our farming practices so radically, we've changed our diet so radically over the last 40 years, we've changed our diet more than we have in the last 40,000 years. Right? We're eating foods that were invented in laboratories, that men in white lab coats have been working for decades on, trying to get fragrances and flavors and all kinds of different tastes and Skittles and stuff. I've got a client who makes advertisement, right? She's a PR person. And she brought me this bag. Do you know what Skittles are? They're like a candy for kids. They're totally toxic. You should read the list of crap that's in them, right? Anyway, here she brought it to me because she wanted to show me the new flavor that they'd come up with. Blueberry smoothie, right? And so like I just looked at this thing and I was like, God, they've been working for like years to come up with blueberry smoothies so that they could package that, and parents will buy that feeling like it's food for their kids, the kids will eat it, and then they'll form gallstones and they'll be coming to me very recently, or very soon, right? So gallstones are really just made out of insipid pus and a lot of cholesterol, right? And basically it's formed from starches, right? 100 years ago we didn't have anywhere near this kind of starches that we have in our diet today. I was looking at a menu for a children's school where they serve breakfast and lunch, right? And it was like waffles or pancakes or something like that for breakfast. And lunch was, I mean, just starch, right? It was all just starches and sugars. There was no real fat there. There was very little protein. And it was really just a lot of mucus-forming foods, right? So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how to clear out the gallstones. And so there's kind of a little bit of a debate, too, that goes on in the internet, and I've noticed lately there's been a bit of a debate about what material is actually being purged from the body in these gallbladder flushes. Has anybody heard of something like that? Sometimes they're like, is it really gallstones? Is it really what's coming out? Well, I have like 50 or 60 people's gallstones in my freezer. I collect gallstones. For research, you know, and to show people when they come over to my house, they're like, well, what do gallstones really look like? I'm like, let's go to the freezer and check it out. And I even brought some pictures of gallstones for you. It's funny because I did a corporate gallbladder flush for a friend of mine who has this famously wonderful company, and he wanted me to come in and give this lecture basically and talk to them about gallstones. And so he had taken a photograph of his gallstones when I put him through the flush, and he emailed them around to everybody. And then they were all like, hi, Pierre. Trying to like not look at him and stuff because they were so embarrassed. They thought it was like shit, you know? So they were, wow, why is the president of the company emailing this to us? But he was just so, it's like, this is a little too personal. It's kind of more information that we really need from you. But I thought it was brilliant, and he's one of my favorite friends, and he totally got it because I have a passion for it, because people carry these around with them for a long time. It takes between 12 and 15 years to form gallstones. So when you're cleaning out a lot of gallstones from your body, you're actually starting with the very beginning. The gallbladder looks kind of like a balloon. It should look like an empty balloon, right? But most people have a gallbladder today, even small people, that's the size of two fists, right? And the larger that we are, the more extension of the girth, the more material that's going to be found in the bile bladder and the bile ducts, right? And it makes things very hard. It makes the liver very, very, very hard. I do reflexology for people, and I can poke around on your hand right here and basically tell you the condition of your liver and your gallbladder, about how many gallstones you have, right? And so I just checked somebody the other day, and she was a young woman too. She was about 22, 23. And I checked her in there, and it was just so hard. I said, wow, that's so hard. You know, do you have this list of symptoms? And she was like, well, yeah, you know, and she had, bad breath. She wasn't digesting her food very well. She had, but not a lot of symptoms. Not like a big list of symptoms where you say, oh my God, you're going to have a problem here. But the #1 scheduled surgery in America today is gallbladder removal. They just take that puppy out. And they don't even realize what it's there for. They don't see the value of what it is. And so if it's today acting like the trash can for the liver, then where's that material going to go? And I'll tell you where the material goes. The body is incredibly resourceful, incredibly resourceful at putting it in every other place that it possibly can. Right? So right from the top of the head all the way down to the bottom of the toenails. You know, anybody who's even got like a little toe fungus, this is really hardened mucus that was not being able to be broken down by the liver. So how does one get rid of all of this material from the body? Basically, my program is really simple. It centers on raw blended foods, right? So by blending your foods, basically we're all kind of digestively exhausted, and we come from 2 or 3 generations now of digestively exhausted people. We don't chew our food as well as we should, right? And so if you go to India and you'll see some guy at the end of the table and he's chewing his food, how many times? 80 times. And I tried to chew it 30 times, and I gotta tell you, it's liquid at that point. Finally, you're just like a cow, you're like trying to find any fiber in there to keep chewing with it. But it's important that we chew our food as well as we can because chewing actually stimulates the digestive experience, right? You get a lot of enzymatic activity there, and you'll also, it starts the salivatory glands moving as well. So even when you're drinking something, you should actually kind of chew it a little bit. So anyway, even when you're doing the raw blended foods, you should chew your food a little bit, as much as you can, right? Anyway, so the first 4 days, I designed this program actually as a 14-day program, but you can actually isolate just the gallbladder flush from it, which is the first 5 days. And I do that all the time. One of the things that I like about this program is instead of like the master cleanse, you actually are able to have every taste that you would like. I think healing should be fun, right? And it should taste good. In fact, I always say about life food nutrition, it has to look better and taste better than cooked food, or else you're not going to sell it to anybody. They're all going to be like, why do I want to eat that bark? It's terrible. It doesn't taste good at all, right? So anyway, by blending your food, so you just blend everything for the first 14 days, and on the 5th day, you're going to sit down, you're going to drink a lot of olive oil and lemon juice, right? So a gallbladder flush is the same as a liver flush, except for it has twice as much oil. So I like to do that on day 5 of this 14-day program, because on day 5, it's a big deal to drink that much oil. In fact, a lot of people are just like, I couldn't look at oil for the next, weeks. I couldn't even put it on my salad dressing. It was just way too much, right? And so you sit down with 8 to 12 ounces of olive oil, and you mix it up with a bit of lemon juice and grapefruit juice, right? And within about 8 to 14 hours, you're going to start pooping out gallstones. And they look just like this, or they might be also bright green color, right? And they're going to be the colors of the bile salts that you actually favored in the food combinations that you've had during your life. You start to get usually like gravel at the first, and it's loaded with bacteria, so it floats on the toilet, right? On the toilet water. So anything that's coming out of the liver, you're not going to really notice what that is because it's heavy metals, waxes, resins, fillers in food, this kind of a thing. It's going to sink to the bottom of the toilet bowl. But the bile stones are going to float, and so you get to see what they are, and you can gather them and show them to your like-minded friends and keep them in your freezer, right? And I got to tell you, one person that pulls a bag of stones out and says, look what I just did, I did this gallbladder flush, 4 or 5 people are like, okay, I'm in. What did you have to do to produce that? And so all I did was drink some olive oil and lemon juice, and I just fasted for a couple of days, and all this stuff comes, right? But I got to tell you, just do one fast, and you'll be so inspired that you will do another fast. And it depends on kind of where you are in your life and stuff too, but there's this rocket scientist that was one of my clients a while ago, and he was like in his 70s, right? And he and his wife, who was maybe 20 years younger, they did the fast. And no kidding, they called me up and they were like, we're down the street at a payphone, and we just finished the gallbladder flush. And I was like, why are you at a payphone? They're like, all the doors and windows are open in the house. It stinks to the highest heavens in there. It is such a bad smell, and I am such a devotee to this program that I'm going to help you in any way that I can, right? And so, and then they sponsored a bunch of lectures and stuff too, because it motivates you. Plus, then also, whenever you have something hard in here, you're not able to move as much as you normally would, right? So it starts to lock things down. When we're born, we're about, between 70 and 80% water, something like that, right? And when we're about 50 years old, we're about 50% water, okay? So about 30% of us is taken up with what? Not us, for sure, but it's taking up space where water should be there, hydraulics should be there, movement should be there, right? And we just kind of start cementing ourselves into place. By the time we're old, we're really kind of cemented into place, right? But the good news is that all of this is completely reversible, and most of it is really just hardened mucus, or fecal mucoid matter. You've heard about that through the intestine. It softens it up, it dissolves it, and it gets it out. How many gallbladder flushes does it take to clean yourself out? For me, it took about 30 or more, I would have to say. Yeah, about 30 or more, and it's funny. When did I start doing gallbladder flushes? Well, I'm teaching this too, so like I always fast with my clients, and I always do. Like in the last 2 years, I've done several of them. But I'm not counting that in my number of 30. 30 was until I stopped getting gallstones out, where I figured that was kind of what the average person would need to do. But I still do gallbladder flushes because I still clean out my liver. I live in really polluted cities, So I'm always breathing that air. And it's really important that we constantly keep, the liver and everything hygienic. Even if you eat the best diet in the world, even if you eat the very best diet in the world, there's an emotional component to every part of our body. And so liver is very much to do with anger, right? And bile bladder is to do with bitterness. And every single person's had something that's done to them that wasn't fair and they didn't deserve, right? So that's bitterness. And by clearing that material out, you really get a nice emotional purge. It's kind of interesting too. One thing that everybody's noticed, and I try to warn my clients about it a little bit too, is you really do get a purge of anger, like old anger issues and bitterness issues too, when you start to clear this material away. And basically, I put it like this. If it takes 12 years to form a gallstone, right, just the average gallstone, and you say you form that gallstone because you were eating, turkey pot pies in front of a horror movie watching television, right? That was the beginning of it, and it was in a day when you would do that, So you're eating the movies going, they're killing you, you're like eating the pot pie or popcorn or whatever it is, eating, and another one goes, and, that was really bloody, God, did you see the head go? Oh, it was horrible, eating. So basically what happens is we emotionally encrypt that food with whatever we're thinking about at the time, even if it wasn't even you, if it was somebody you were watching on television, right? And that's why you see yogis and great sages, they always say a little prayer. You bless the food, but you also quiet the mind and create a quiet space so that you're not adding anything to the experience of eating besides just eating, and having an enjoyable moment. Because they realize even the conversations that we have, about whatever, hopefully nice things while you're sitting around the table, but a lot of people complain, or they watch the news, and the news is a horror show in and of itself. They want to tell you something horrible happened today, and you're like, well, God, did it happen near me? No, it happened on the other side of the country, and we're racing there to tell you about it. Even if there's something that didn't happen that was horrible here, that we're going to Bangladesh where something really horrible happened today, and all of that is just really keeping people in a fear-based reality, So it doesn't have anything to do with having a sacred moment when we're eating, and actually really taking that time to do it too. 8 to 12 ounces. For a gallbladder flesh, it's 8 to 12 ounces. For a liver flesh, it's half that, so 4 to 6 ounces. You should probably do about a cup. And if you do a little heavier on the grapefruit juice, I gotta tell you, I've gagged down so much of this oil over the years. The easiest way to do it is to go really heavy on the grapefruit juice and just a little lemon juice. So if you have a little hand juicer, I would say juice like 3 good-sized grapefruits and 2, medium-sized lemons, and that should do the trick.
Cut the 5 days up to, you said blend stuff.
You're doing raw blended foods, so soups, smoothies, nut milk. I have a recipe called the electrolyte lemonade, which has a little bit of oil and salt in it. It's very good for the electrolytes. Any juice you can have on this program as well. You can do any of the even hot teas or medicinal teas. Try to stay away from the caffeine during that time period. But no solid food, no cooked food, no dairy, no alcohol, and no meat is basically what you're doing.
But my question is about, can you do flax oil or any other oil besides olive?
Good question. You can do it, but you want to wait until you're having really good regularity, right? So I generally just tell people do olive oil because that's something that everybody can do. But if you're really clean and you're having defecation, say when you eat and you're defecating that material out within like 5 or 7 hours, like totally evacuated, then you're good and you can do the flaxseed oil. Why? Because if you have flaxseed oil, it gets hung up in your liver for a couple of days, it's going to go rancid. You're at 98 degrees and stuff, so it's going to turn rancid. That's when you start, it repeats on you and things like that. It's not going to kill you, but it's certainly better to do the olive oil then. So I would say that your first 10, 15 flushes do just olive oil.
So
To really encourage people to do some laxative during this time period too, because whenever you stop cooked food for sure, but whenever you're blending everything, you're just drenching your body in enzymes, and it makes everything much more elastic, right? So how do people look at these stones pictures that I have and stuff, and they're like, how could that get out of that tiny little bile duct? By flooding your body with enzymes, you make the body functionally elastic, right? And much more elastic than it had been before. That's why your skin gets really tight and your eyes get, it looks like you've had a little facelift or something, because you're having those extra enzymes in there, and it makes that more elastic. But I keep people fasting the day that, so if you drink your oil for the gallbladder flush on the 4th day, and you're only going to do the gallbladder flush, I would say fast on that 4th day as well, fast on the 5th day, and break your fast on the 6th day. Just because. Sorry?
When you say fast, you mean water?
No, nutritional fasting. So smoothies and soups and electrolyte lemonade, nut milk, any juice.
Well, I did a gallbladder flush once, and I thought there was something about Epsom salts in there.
I have a whole list of different laxatives that you can use, and Epsom salt is on there. I just have a really hard time gagging it down. I like Swiss. Well, you need to have a laxative, but you can pick which one works better for you. I have this product that I call like Human Drano. It's OxyMag. You guys ever tried the OxyMag? And it's a little intense too. You mix it with a little bit of fresh squeezed lemon juice. But I gotta tell you, it does the job, and it really cleans even really constipated people out. You can get it on the internet. You take it right throughout the entire fast. Take it right throughout the fast. And so people always say to me, well, how much do you take? And I say, well, enough to produce between 3 and 5 bowel movements a day. Because otherwise, you're just gunky in there. And the only time that you're going to feel not that well in it is if you haven't had enough bowel movements. Take more laxatives. Like at some point, there's like people feel like a little headachy thing starting to come on. Take more laxatives or hit the colonicist. But in some way, evacuate that material out of there, because people already have sluggish intestinal tracts, right? With a very slow amount of peristalsis through there. And so when you're fasting, you're liquefying all this mucus, which is what? Sticky stuff, you know? And so you've got a sluggish intestine and sticky stuff coming through there. So you just want to give it that break and give it the laxative and just move it all through as quickly as possible. A full and thorough evacuation. Yes. I know, I've puked a lot of oil at myself. Basically, it's just a sluggish intestinal tract. It also shows a sluggish liver, right? Because when the oil hits the stomach, the body. Did you hear everybody said too? He said sometimes she's vomited this up. And even after several hours, right? But what I found is if you keep it in there at least for 5 or 6 hours, you're still going to get some kind of a purge out of there. And you'll notice it. It's biocolors. It doesn't look like poop. It's very, very different kind of material. So try to keep it down for as long as you can. Take enzymes with it. This would be really good for her to start taking enzymes as soon as you drink the oil. It's a lot of oil to have your body to digest. And also sometimes you might even feel it just sort of just sitting in there, like your body's kind of like, what am I going to do with this, And so the enzymes really help to start moving it through and get it out of the stomach and into the liver area where it's going to do its good. But I want to thank you so much for the time that you gave me today. Have a beautiful day. Oh, and it's my birthday today too, so.